We can draw models in Blender. So Blender is a modeling tool, 3D graphics modeling tool, and rather than achieving everything programmatically, we can have a graphics where we can drag and drop, and we have ready-made tools. We have ready-made drawings like a sphere or a cube, or we have a cylinder, so cone. So we can use Blender as a graphical modeling tool, and we can do drag and drop, and we can select the various properties of various shapes that we draw, and we can have so many shapes that we can kind of club together to bring up a kind of a big shape. So Blender is a kind of quite famous 3D modeling tool. Means if I draw through Blender, then I can export it through various kind of formatting, like wavefront opt formatting is the famous one. So this is the way. Or we can enhance. If I have a kind of aeroplane, or I have a boat object file that I can import, and then I can do kind of enhancing on the model. So Blender is a 3D modeling tool that is used heavily. So it's a kind of free tool that is available, and we can install it on Ubuntu like or Linux Mint sudo apt-get install Blender. Okay, but if I want to do repeated thing, or if I have a already I have a drawing, and then I want to do some minor changes, then every time bringing the Blender and doing the changes is not possible. Means we need programming support. So programming support is like if I have a program and that does the 3D modeling, then if I run the program, it does the same 3D modeling. So we can do kind of a repetitive task through Blender and through the programming. So nowadays it's a kind of Python is a kind of a language, so that is used in mainline programming like C++, and it is used as a it is used as a scripting language. So it has power of Java scripting kind of languages when it comes to scripting, and it has power of C++ or Java kind of which provide more runtime polymorphism. So it has many things. So Python is a kind of a language or a scripting language that should be supported. So that is inbuilt supported in Blender. So in Blender we have a tab. If I click scripting, then I can have Python code, and if I execute I can type Python code, I can paste the Python code, and if I execute the Python code, then Python code takes care of drawing the model. So rather than doing it from the mouse and clicking properties of the each model here and there, that we can use with the Python. So Python we can run on the Blender. So that is the idea. So Python support in the Blender is inherent, and Blender supports it. So we can have we can click on the scripting tab, and we can paste Python program, and we can execute it. Means it has BPI as the top level module, and then through the Blender Python module we can write the program. So good concept. Okay, so like in most of the videos what we are uploading, so these are not the information. So we are in series now to file kind of article on each of the videos. So whatever video we are uploading, all videos are research based, so no one has done it. So it's not information based. So there is no information. Means it can be means anyone can get this information on internet. So that is available. Okay, now Python is supported in the Blender, so this information is available. And if we want, now the question arises is, if I need Python kind of, if I need 3D modeling through the Python scripting, do I need to go to the go to the scripting tab and then paste the Python program and click execute every time. So that is not possible. Means we are committed to bring machine learning and artificial intelligence in the 3D modeling. In those areas, we need to create hundreds of modeling object files, I would say, in the wavefront language, and that much hundreds, no one will go and click here. Means it is mismanageable. Nice that Blender has provided Python support, but hundreds and thousands of models we cannot create. Just go and click here and there. Okay, means it is one step ahead of doing the work done through the mouse and keyboard, but it is not enough that every time someone should go and click on the tab and paste the Python program and get it executed and see the error on the console. Means it's a basic support, I would say, as far as the execution is concerned. Now then question arises is can we use Python as external program? So I have a terminal and I am writing Python program, and when I execute it, program should consult the Blender and then Blender would execute the program. So whatever the error or whatever the status is, the program status is, it should return. So this is also available on the internet. It's available. Means if I execute a Python program inside the Blender, then rather than doing the actual drawing, it would do inter-process communication. So Python would wait on a socket, or it would see a shared memory, whatever the inter-process communication generally we see in the Unix. I believe we can use pipes, and there are FIFO, and there can be many ways where inter-process communication can happen. So like if I use socket, means that is the most famous, and it can be used inter-computer also, not only inter-process but inter-computer also. So if I use socket, then I have to run server socket in the Blender. So if I execute a script in the Blender, so this script would not be normal script, it would be server script, and server script would start a socket and it would wait on the acceptance. So some client would call the connect, and then it would return a socket pair, and that socket pair, it would start receiving the data. So it would wait on the accept. Okay, yes, this is what is available. I tried searching many places. Means I tried this way also, that I have a client, and client passes a Python code, means that I would have run on the Blender as a kind of Blender script. So Blender script, what I was running, that script comes out of the Blender and it is behaving like a client application. So on the Blender, now a server would run instead of the code. Only small piece of server would run, and server would wait on the acceptance of the client. So client would connect and server would execute the code. Okay, now up to here it is nice. So client connects on a particular socket, port, and socket is nothing but combination of IP address and port. So it would connect on a port and IP address. It may be local IP address, I mean local looping IP address, and then local host it is called. And then when a new socket pair returns by the accept, then it receives the byte data, and then it would execute the program. It is as good as someone typed on the Blender itself. So nice, means there is no hesitation in executing this program. But up to here, means after that I saw only theory that it is hanging and this and that, but there is no remedy. So beyond that we proceed wherever we see that things are blocking. So now the main problem with the Blender is a process, and it has a thread, means main thread, and when we execute the Python code, looks like it does in the main thread itself. So if the main processing, so socket server that we are executing in the Blender, and if it runs in the main thread, then means when it is when it is waiting for the someone to connect on a socket, it's a blocking call. So Blender GUI freezes in the blocking call of the socket. Means full concentration is on the server socket, and server socket blocks. So if server socket blocks, we cannot see anything on the Blender screen. Means it is useless. So how we can achieve a non-blocking client server model in the Blender, where client has opportunity to pass its Blender file to the server, and it will execute in no time, and then it returns. So Blender would keep working the way it was working, okay? But on the other side, it will have additional operation as Python server. So Python server would run in a fashion that whenever kind of a client connects, so it cannot be interrupt basis. I mean, whenever client connects, then it cannot be interrupt basis. So there has to be some other methodology that we need to incorporate. But the idea is, can we have a Blender which would behave as a Python server, and then server would execute in a non-blocking. So Blender, it would be doing its own task, and then whenever client wants, then it would connect to the server and get its work done, and it would receive back its status, what has happened. If its script could not be executed, then it should know. So also, if I had a Blender and it was running very nice, then if I am bringing Python support, then it should be addition on top of it. But the Blender's main execution should not halt, should not change. Okay, so nice, means it is something like presentable, means how we can achieve non-blocking GUI application in Blender through the Python scripting, and that to client server model, where client connects from the outside and then suddenly work happens, but the person who is watching the Blender, it would not see anything freezing. So that is the idea that we'll see that how we can achieve. Okay, so if I go to device driver areas, like if I have a kind of if Python server is waiting on many sockets, then socket implementation happens in the device area where we have networking sockets. So through device driver, we can come to there we have interrupts, there we have polling. So we can generally, so this is the provision that Unix provides, is select, poll, epoll, kernel queues. So these are the methodologies that is provided at the kernel level, where we can wait on the so many kind of file descriptors. So socket is also a networking file descriptor. So we will try to achieve non-blocking input output. Server socket side in Blender, that will be based on select, where we would use non-blocking circuit, means timeout fashion, and that would non-block, and I mean it will be kind of a little complicated while we have a facial discussion. So that we will achieve, and we will use other methodology as events. So in graphical programming, it's not a synchronous program like C++, it's a synchronous. Means whatever we are executing, whatever we are seeing in the program would get executed the way it is written. So that is not in the GUI. So Blender GUI, it would work in a kind of event callback. So it's an event callback mechanism where event callback happens and callback functions are executed. So it's completely based upon the kind of event loop manager who decides that which function will get executed. Maximum we can do that, we will place a request that we want to get executed. So it works in a asynchronous way. We will honor the asynchronous way of the Blender, and in that honor we will try to achieve what we can do. So we will see the Blender GUI model, that is a non-blocking model, and then we will use our select, so that we are doing. So both stuff we will club together and we will try to achieve this non-blocking Python integration scenario. So that will see.